Let's put the new GPT-4o model, which is OpeAI's latest and most advanced model, to the test. Now, I used to make video games, and back in 2006, I was working on a total conversion modification for the popular PC game Call of Duty 2 called Unbound Forces. So I made this. Now, it is somewhat of an obscure reference, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's not in the default training set for GPT-4, and sure enough, it isn't. So the best that this model could do was basically hallucinate and inference and then try to infer what a Call of Duty 2 modification called Unbound Forces might be. And in this regard, it's not inaccurate. We did add new weapons, we did have custom maps, we did enhance the gameplay mechanics, but all of this is very vague. None of this is specific, and one of the ways that you know that this is a hallucination is that it says that Unbound Forces was well received by fans of Call of Duty 2 and extended the life of the game. Unbound Forces never released, and that's one of the reasons why it's actually an obscure reference. So this is what we call a hallucination. Now let's compare this exact same prompt with WebGPT, a custom GPT that was available in the ChatGPT Plus store up until a few days ago when OpenAI removed it. And now after making a couple external actions to back-end infrastructure resources that power WebGPT, this is where the actual AI agent is going out and doing its research on the web, you'll notice that it's able to pull in much more accurate information. It's able to learn that the mod was actually set in 2049. That is correct. It has knowledge about the Tactical Response Unit, TRU. Notice that it even picks up on details from the research that it did, like the M4A1A carbine, as well as the SOCOM pistol. WebGPT was able to perform a much more satisfactory result than stock ChatGPT because it had access to the entire World Wide Web unrestricted. See, if I ask it to actually cite its source and give me the URL, it's able to provide me the link to what was this ModDB page. And sure enough, there's all that information. There's our Tactical Response Unit. Look at this, scrolling down a little bit further, it was even able to pick up on the SOCOM pistol. It found the M4A1A carbine. There's that monorail station map that we talked about. It was even able to pick up off the image the UF_monorail code name. Now, technically speaking, was this website copyrighted? Well, yes, all websites, if you scroll down to the footer, they have these copyright C 2002 to 2024, some company name, right? This is standard for the web. All websites have this. So either we're drawing the line in the sand right now and we're saying that AI agents are not going to be able to browse and retrieve content off the web, or we need to start being a little bit more reasonable and pragmatic about this. It's one thing for the New York Times to be suing OpenAI about using copyrighted material like their articles in the overall training of a frontier foundational model. But it's quite another thing to claim that all of the web, all of these publicly accessible pages that you can access directly through your web browser are also somehow off limits to AI agent-driven technologies. That's quite another thing altogether, and I think that it's a mistake to classify them as such. Look here, using WebGPT, I can ask it about information about this story. Let's say I heard about how the New York Times was suing OpenAI and Microsoft. I can just ask it generically to go find me that information. And it's going to be able to go perform that research. And ultimately, it's going to pull up the exact same resource that I just showed you on the screen a second ago. And it's going to be able to summarize it. It did some web searches. It picked up some sources that it liked. It actually went to the New York Times site itself to get that article, and then it summarized it for me. And I know that it used that New York Times article because I can actually ask it for it, and it gives me the link directly to that same page. Let me ask you a question though. What is the difference between what WebGPT just did on its own frictionlessly versus me going to the article, highlighting the whole page content, copying it to my clipboard, and pasting it into ChatGPT-4o? Because this is, in essence, at its simplest form, what all WebGPT is doing is it's removing the friction between you copying and pasting what is otherwise a publicly accessible page that you could have researched anyway. It's creating an AI agent-driven loop, AI agent-driven paradigm for the user to have a much more elegant research experience. And are there unique risks and challenges associated with this? For sure. Prompt injection risks, there's security risks, but these are all risks and issues that will be mitigated and innovated on by me and my team if we're permitted to do so. Just this past weekend, we got this notice from the OpenAI Trust and Safety team saying that we were accessing third-party content without permissions, without the necessary permissions, which is just ridiculous. This, of course, led to considerable backlash because this is a pretty popular GPT. Another consequence of their actions doing this is it actually removed all of the chat histories for everybody who's using WebGPT, which is a lot of really productive people because it was one of the more useful GPTs. Look, one of the core innovations that WebGPT is capable of because of its unrestricted web access is it actually can make deployments. It can push out and launch these creative interactive playgrounds, no-code creative playgrounds on your behalf. So one of our default prompts here is to just build the game of Flappy Bird, and it just goes ahead and deploys it. We can click on this link that it deployed for us, and we see that we just get a default canvas setup. And we go back to the chat where it's just been continuing to build in the background for us. And I'm going to fast forward here just for brevity. Now it says that it implemented us the bird with some basic gravity physics and some flat mechanics, so I can hit spacebar. And sure enough, there it is. We see our changes deployed right before our eyes. I go back to chat, and the LLM already laid out its next steps for implementing the pipe obstacles. So I'm just going to tell it to go ahead at its own discretion because I think its plan sounds great. By the way, I'm a big fan of the refreshed user interface for ChatGPT.com, so props to the OpenAI team for that, for sure. Okay, so now it looks like WebGPT deployed a new version of our game that should now have the green pipe obstacles, so, and lo and behold, there it is. And now there are some problems here. There's no collision detection, for instance. There's no game over conditions, but you get the idea here. This is an iterative, human-in-the-loop build process that WebGPT creates for any creative projects that you might have in mind. And this is the resource that has now been removed for the 5th time in our history. I don't know why OpenAI keeps doing this. They seem to keep finding more reasons to delist us, and then we appeal, and then they relist us. And I don't understand why this time in particular. It seems like they're going to stand firm on this. Here's Adam GPT, who works for OpenAI's go-to-market team, who says that he checked with the team, the product teams, and that they confirmed that this is not arbitrary, as he says. By the way, I don't know why these policies and what the rhyme and reason is and how they apply it to which ones. As you saw, we have a very, very useful productive GPT, but there's other ones in the store, Link Reader, this other one called Web Browser, which is a direct ripoff of the official ChatGPT, Web Browser GPT. These two GPTs are not taken down. They're not enforced. They have hundreds of thousands of chats to their credit. So look, in closing, I've been pretty vocal about the ethical quagmires that the GPT-4 is facing right now. Last month, I actually made this post calling out 3 GPTs in particular that are still trending on the GPT store, have not been taken down, that specifically exist to bypass the human AI detection. And look, what's changed since I called them out in the past month, right? They removed this one line about specifically bypassing AI detection, which was a clear, egregious violation of their ethics policy. What changed? We were banned. They went on to get 4 times as much traffic in the past month, and our GPT was the one that was removed. It's insane. So look, I think OpenAI is making a mistake. I don't understand. I've never seen a company do this. I think it's extremely self-destructive. I think they're marginalizing some of the most honest, ethical, and hardworking GPT builders in favor of what are a lot of grifts and ethical quagmires and quandaries in their store. And I don't understand why they're applying these policies and these rules to different standards for different GPT builders. So this is my plea to OpenAI. I hope you restore WebGPT for all the WebGPT users out there. I apologize for this, and I hope that they make the right decision. But until then, stay tuned, and we'll work on trying to find a workaround to getting you the kind of user experiences back that you've come to love and expect out of WebGPT.